All right, guys. Hello there. Today we're talking about the binomial theorem or binomial expansion. And I don't know how this video is going to go because I know it's going to take me some time to show all this, but I will try to do it as efficiently as possible. So anyways, here are your steps that you'll want to know. I'm going to not be on the screen for very long, so you can pause the video. I would definitely write these 4 things down. These are very important. Again, pause the video because that probably wasn't enough time, but I'm going to keep rolling. So here's an example of doing those steps. I have x plus y. I want to do this to the 4th power. Now, you guys know if this was, to the 2nd power, right, you'd have to FOIL, okay? First, outside, inside, less. If this was to the 3rd power, you'd have to FOIL twice. If this was to the 4th power, you'd have to FOIL, 3 times. If this was x plus y and then to the 10th power, you're going to have to FOIL a whole pile of times. You don't want to have to do that. So those steps that were just on the screen, those are the steps you're going to want to use to expand this. So the first step, if you recall, was to write out the coefficients. Now, there's 2 ways to do this. One is, it's to the 4th power. You can look at the 4th row of Pascal's triangle. I can tell you it's going to be a 1. It's going to be a 4. I can't remember what's in the middle, but then it's going to be another 4, and then it's going to be another 1. Now again, I don't have the triangle in front of me, and I can't remember what this is. So if you don't have it, then you can use combinations, which hopefully you saw, I believe it was yesterday. This would be 4 combinations of 0. This would be 4 combinations of 1. And this middle one's going to be 4 combinations of 2. And I'm doing this on my calculator, and it's a 6. So now I have my 5 coefficients. I think this was actually on that last screen too. If you're to the 4th power, you're going to have 5 terms. Right? Think back to if this was a squared, right? When you FOIL it, you end up with 3 terms. Okay. So anyways, step number 1 is get your coefficients, and you can get those from the triangle or from combinations. The next one is write in your x and y's. In this case, it is an x and a y. So I'm going to write in my x and y's. Sometimes that might be something different, and I'll show you an example of that here in a little bit. But for the first time through, we're going to do a nice easy one where it's x and y. Okay? So that step is complete. Next step is to write in the exponents. The exponent on the first one is a 4. Notice I'm only writing exponents on the x's. So this is going to be 4, and then it just goes down by 1 each time. So 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Now, the other way, if I'm going to the y's, it kind of goes the opposite way. So the 4 starts on this end. Oops, that's a little big. 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. You notice the exponents always add up to 4, right? Because that's what power we're doing. If this was a 10th power, these would add up to 10. All right, so that's the next step. It's all addition, so we can put our addition signs in here if you wish. The last step is just to simplify. This is sometimes the toughest step. It's not too bad on this one, but sometimes it's tough. So I have 1 times x to the 4th. That's simply x to the 4th. And remember, y to the 0, anything to the 0 power is 1. So this is like 1 times x to the 4th times 1. I just get x to the 4th. This next one, there's not a whole lot of simplification you can do. That 4 is going to stay there. X to the 3rd. Y to the 1 is just y. Nothing changes here. I'm going to do that for time's sake. And then over here, again, not a lot of simplification. I guess I dropped that 1 off there because you don't really need it. This last one, again, we have 1 times x to the 0. Remember, x to the 0 is 1 again. So 1 times y to the 4th. And this is your final answer. So this is what you'd want to be putting on the test. Totally simplified and totally good. All right, let's do a tougher one. All right, so let's look at this one here. I want you to the 5th power this time. And just notice it's not just an x and a y. I have a 2x here. It could be 2x squared. It could be whatever. Here I have a 3. First thing to I just want to point out is when it's a -3, that minus makes it trickier for one thing. But treat this as a -3. So tack that minus right onto that 3, and you're going to be in a lot better shape. So look back at your steps, which you probably have written down. Step number 1, get your coefficients. So again, I know the first one is a 1, 5. I can't remember that next one. I think it's a 10, but I'm going to double check. So I do 5 combinations. Again, this would be 5C0, 5C1, 5C2. So let me see what that is. I think it's a 10. It is a 10. Look at that. Nailed it. And since this is symmetric, hopefully you noticed that about Pascal's triangle. I'm going to have another 10, and another 5, and then another 1. Again, it's to the 5th power. Notice I'm going to have 6 terms. Step number 1 is complete. Now the next step is write in x and y. Well, you got to realize that you got to write in your terms. So my first term is 2x, and my second term is minus 3. So notice, and this might take me a second to write, and so be it, but this is going to be 2x. Notice I'm using parentheses. So I got my 2x, and I'm putting it in parentheses. And like I said, this is going to take a second. All right, as indicated, that took a long time, but so be it. Notice how I put my 2x in parentheses. I put the negative 3 in parentheses because I really want to make sure that negative is tacked on to that 3. It's awfully easy to mess up if you don't use parentheses, so that's why I did. That step is complete. Now we write in our exponents. We've done this before on the last one. So I got 5, 4, 3. 3s are hard to make. 2, 1, 0, and then of course I go the opposite direction on the other one. 5, 4, 3, there's that tough 3, 2, 1, 0. Notice I'm not going to put my plus signs in this time because I know that that negative is going to goof things up. So let's start the simplification process. Again, this is often the trickiest spot, so this is where I would tune in closely. So this first one, I have a 1. Notice exponent rules, we did these earlier this year. I have 2 to the 5th and x to the 5th. So 2, 4, 8, 16, that's going to be a 32. So 1 times 32, x to the 5th. And if you look at that y, it's just y to the, or this negative 3, sorry. Negative 3 to the 0 is just 1. So it's 1 times 32, x to the 5th times 1. We get that term right there. All right, let's go to this one. I've got the 5. Notice this 4 is on the 2 and the x here. So I have 2, 4, 8, 16. 16 times 5. I also have negative 3 to the 1. So again, just grab your calculator if you want. Oop, mine just died. 5 times 16 times negative 3. You can even do negative 3 to the 1 power if you really want. I don't care. And that is negative 240. So this is actually going to be a subtraction sign. So I got negative 240. I'm going to have x to the 4th on that. And I'm going to have, that's it. Okay. 4 is a little goofy. Marginally better. All right, let's go to this next one. 10 times 2 to the 30. Again, you can just plug this straight in your calculator if you want. 10 times 2 to the 3rd. Be careful with this negative 3 squared, right? Put the negative 3 in parentheses if you're going to use your calculator, or just put in a positive 9. You should end up with a positive 720 here. Positive 720. And it looks like I'm going to have x to the 3rd power. All right, on to this next mess. 10 times 2 squared, so that's 10 times 4. That's 40. I can do that in my head. Negative 3 to the 3rd. It's going to be negative 27. So negative 27 times 40. That's going to be a negative 1,080. And again, check my math there, make sure it's right, but I think that's good. Yeah. What do we have here? X squared. Okay, x squared. Notice again, that's a negative term as I have the negative out front. All right, 5 times 2 to the 1st, that's 5 times 2, that's 10. 10 times 81 would be 810. Check your calculator if you're not sure. That's positive, and we just have an x on that one. And the last term here is 1 times, again, this whole term is just 1, right? 2x to the 0 is just 1. So 1 times 1 times negative 3 to the 5th, negative 243. There's my last term, which is a negative, and there's no x's on that one. There is your final answer. Completely simplified. This is what you'd be wanting to plug in on the test. Notice when you have a minus up here, it goes every other. kind of, I don't know, interesting, I guess, just a tidbit, kind of a double check if you're looking. But that's how you do binomial expansions. If you do those 4 steps, work through it one at a time, and simplify at the end, you should be in good shape. If you're having trouble, there's oodles of videos online for additional help. I was actually thinking of not making one and just doing Khan Academy because they do a pretty good job. But otherwise, let me know. I'll try to help you. I can always check your answers if you want. But 2 more weeks, guys. 2 more weeks. Hang in there.